Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hey everyone, Carrie here, and today we're going to talk about the Southern Assault Classic BattleTech Tournament. Now, of course, this episode is sponsored by Fortress Miniatures and Games. Go ahead and check them out for all your BattleTech needs. They're also the ones that have been running Southern Assault, and it's an awesome tournament. If you ever get a chance to go, check it out because it's now a convention, not just a tournament. Also, if you want to get more BattleTech content, remember to like, subscribe, and you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/unicorn company, or you can become a channel member by clicking the join button on the YouTube channel thing below. Anyway, enough self-shilling and, you know, all that. Let's talk about this tournament because it was a pretty awesome tournament. There were some things that, were interesting about it. And as far as the scenarios, and I had a really good time, and I think my opponents also had good times. It was a lot of fun, and I want to talk about it today. So first of all, this was run by the guys over at the Mech Bay. Check out their channel, their podcast. I don't remember if they have a YouTube channel to accompany it, but check them out. They're awesome. And they were running an 8,000 battle value tournament. Pretty much the rules were simple. You had the rule of two, no same variant for mechs, I believe it was. You could not have a mech outside of faction. You had to pick a faction and era, stick with it. And I mean that was pretty much it. Oh, you also couldn't have skill more than one apart from each other. So let me start off by talking about what Unicorn Company brought to the game. I brought a lance of Inner Sphere first generation Omnimex. I mean, I had done a video about them. I like these things. I don't know why. They're kind of derpy, but they are interesting and they're fun. So my list consisted of a Blackhawk KU primary variant at skill 3-4 for 1731. A Blackjack C, which is the LBX Blackjack, a Sunder A, and a Strider F. Now, I don't know how familiar you are with all of these variants, so I want to go ahead and talk about them real quick. And of course, something dinged back there. I apologize, but it's just going to stay in because I'm going here. And let me go ahead, grab the record sheets, and I'm just going to talk about what each of these variants are, and then we're going to talk about the tournament, the rounds, and all that. Okay, so starting off with the first mech, the Blackhawk KU. It's a 60-tonner Inner Sphere copy of the Blackhawk or the Nova, and it's a 585 jumper. It is a medium pulse laser pulse boat. Anyway, it is a laser boat. It's a light bulb. You got like 4 medium pulse lasers, 6 medium lasers, and enough heat sinks to effectively cycle through and not just burn yourself out. And it makes for a good flanker. It also makes for a very good, up close brawler, even though it has an Inner Sphere XL engine, because it has all the energy weapons. It's not going to have an ammo explosion and just knock it out. You got to actually take out the torso or something like that. Next, that Blackjack C is 2 LB-10X autocannons and 2 medium lasers on a battle mech. I mean, quite literally, that's all it is. I ran it with a ton of cluster, a ton of slug. I should have just run 2 tons of cluster. Quite frankly, the cluster rounds did more for me than anything else, especially thanks to their -1 to hit. Then we have the Sunder, which is the A variant, and it has a Gauss rifle, ERPPC, a couple medium pulse lasers, and 3 LRM5s. It's an all-rounder, but it has a heavy punch to it at long range, and it's something that, for example, that Blackjack can take advantage of with the LBX cannons. Also, just in general, with the floating crits, the LBXs were nice to have. And finally, we have the Strider. This thing is, I refer to it as an Omni Cicada. And quite frankly, that's what it is. In this configuration, it's 2 medium lasers, 2 Streak SRM4s, Once again, crit seeking, and also it moves 696, so it's also good as a flanker. It's good for a few different roles, and it actually played a few different roles in the games that I was in. So, getting to those games, the first round I played against Steven, and the scenario is push the line, and this has 4 objectives set up center line on the board essentially, and each time you touched it with a mech, and you end up standing there for the entire turn on top of the objective. You can still shoot and everything. The objective moves based on the weight of the mech. I want to say light was 1 hex, medium was 2, heavy was 3, and assault was 4. And you're trying to push these off the table. So Steven was running a Hussar 400D, a Nexus 1A, a King Crab 001, a Wasp 1A, and a Night Star 9J. I didn't get his actual sheet. I didn't write down the skills. That's my fault. I do apologize. So anyway, as far as our game went, it was an interesting game because I had set up with the blackjack to my left flank and everything else on my right. He set up pushing roughly equal across the table with the King Crab and the Night Star holding the center, and the Nexus was on my right, the Wasp and Hussar were on my left. And the Blackjack did pretty good for a while with those 2 mechs. It eventually ended up drawing the attention of the Night Star, which just turned things bad for me at that point. On that left flank, though, eventually the Blackhawk, yeah, it was the Blackhawk, I believe, started to make it. No, was it the Blackhawk? No, it wasn't the Blackhawk. It was the Avatar, or Sunder. Sorry, not Avatar. The Sunder started making its way over there eventually because the Blackhawk ended up playing with the King Crab the entire game. And one round, he had actually hit my torso and opened it up on one of the sides, and I was essentially that Blackhawk was dancing with death every single turn because one more shot into that side torso, I was out. But thankfully, I survived the entire game with that Blackhawk. I want to say that. Let me see. I'm gonna look at the sheet here for the Blackhawk. Yeah, he hit it for all 20 of the armor off of there, and he did not get internal at the time, I don't think. But the Blackhawk was like just I want to say at the end I had 5 structure left in the left torso. Luckily, no engine hits. I got my objectives almost off the table. He got them less far, and you counted how far it was from the center line essentially. So I ended up winning the game just barely, but it was a good game and I really enjoyed it. It's a fun mission. Um, it's just something that you don't get to see every day. It's not moving objectives is really awesome. There's a moving objective game in Alpha Strike. We will talk about that because it's a different variety of it. But anyway, that's for later on. Next up was Mission 2, Handle with Care. Handle with Care was fun. You have exploding objectives. So the objectives are sent up in the middle of the table, long ways, so that you have 4 hexes and then 2 hexes. And the 2 hexes are along the center line, the 4 are 2 towards each opponent. And you're basically going in there, you end your turn on one of these, you stay there the whole turn, you pick up the objective. Now, the objective can blow up. It doesn't get destroyed, it just explodes, which makes it interesting. It can it can explode from a unit falling for any reason. If they fall, the cargo is placed in the direction of the fall. If the carrying unit takes 20 plus damage in a turn, if it moves 5 or more hexes, you check for detonation. If it jumped, you have to make a PSR roll to avoid falling, I believe. And cargo detonation is triggered per carried objective. It can be triggered multiple times per phase. All right, so as far as detonation, it's on an 8-up on a 2d6, causes 10 damage in 2 groups of 5. Uses front body for damage. Damage caused by the explosion can cause critical hits. Objectives that explode are not destroyed. You have a PSR +2 whenever you jump with the objective. Failing results in you falling. Uh, if you fall or it's destroyed, you drop the objective. Also, you can drop the objective in an adjacent hex after the heat phase in. So heat phase ends, pick up any objectives, drop objectives, score controlled objectives. We did talk, my opponent, Jesty, and I did talk to, oh God, I can't remember his name. I just remember Sol Roth, which I know is not his actual name. Anyway, um, but we spoke to him from the Mech Bay, and we were like, hold up, can you sticky bomb a mech? And he essentially said, yes, you can. If you really want to do it, you can sticky bomb a mech with the objective as long as it's, there. You score 3 points for each objective under your control at the end of the turn, and 5 for each enemy that is crippled at the end of the game, 10 if they're destroyed. Maximum 30 points through this objective. So, this was a really, really interesting game because I was a bit trepidatious about grabbing exploding objectives, and Jesty went ahead and grabbed a bunch of them. I did end up later on in the game grabbing a few to try to score some points because I was like, oh my god, I've tanked this, But also, I want to talk about, and I totally forgot about this, Jesty's list. All right, so Jesty over at the Coolant Pod brought along a Marauder 2 6D, a Thunderbolt 9 Naeus, which is an awesome mech. Like, I absolutely love it. The Ost Scout 4J, an Urban Mech R70, and because you were allowed to use it in the event, the Greyhound SA5, Roman numeral 5. But anyway, talking about his list real quick, I mean, for the most part, like, the Marauder did Marauder things. I want to say it's a fast-moving Marauder too as well. Yeah, 355, it can jump 5. It can move quick enough. The Urban Mech, it just kind of took up a position on a hill, and anytime you came in range of it, it would shoot at you. Wasn't really a thing to deal with. The Thunderbolt obviously was a thing to deal with because it's, the Naeus Thunderbolt. It's just a pain in the ass. But I do love that mech. There's a reason I love it, because it is a pain in the ass. And of course, the Greyhound SA5. Now, this mech is the Mech Bay's signature mech. Quick run over of it. It's 690, 60 tons. Has a 360 Clan XL engine. For weapons, it carries a plasma rifle in the right arm, medium re-engineered laser in the right torso, medium RE laser in the left torso, inner sphere ER medium lasers in the left and right torsos, rocket launcher 15s in the left and right torsos, a retractable blade in the left arm, a coolant pod in the right torso, an active probe in the head, and a clan targeting computer. Yeah, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. I never took it down, but I did beat on it a little bit. For the most part, it was running around me trying to blow up the objectives that he was carrying around, just because I was more curious about the mechanic than anything else, right? His Marauder did take a beating. I actually got a through armor critical on the head on that one. It took out his sensors and life support, missing the cockpit. Like that one magic BB from the blackjack could have taken it down. But Jesty ended up winning. We did talk to the Mech Bay guys. We're like, hey, there's some things about these we would probably want to change, like you might want to look at in the future, mainly how explodey the objectives were, because I swear to God, every time there was an opportunity for the objective to explode, and he had the objective, it exploded, like every single time. It was not a maybe it will explode or something like that. It would explode. And overall, like, it was a fun mission. It was a lot of fun fighting against him. I know that there were a few podcasters there, and it's always fun just getting to meet the other people out there that are doing stuff. But it was a fun game with him. I really enjoyed it. Um, I really, really had wished I got a cockpit critical hit on that Marauder. I think that would have changed a lot of stuff that game. And he never sticky bombed me. I was surprised. Like the question had come up, and it was like, yeah, no, we can sticky bomb each other, and we never did it. And of course, my final round was against someone who I'd played the previous day in Alpha Strike. Um, I have totally forgotten his name. I feel horrible. Oh my god, how did I forget his name? No, I have his sheet right here. Yeah, I'm horrible with names, by the way. I will remember your face until like I am cold and in the ground. I cannot remember a name to save my life. Like unless I see you every day or I'm really used to somebody or whatever. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like I don't remember names. Um, so anyway, Lucas McCall. And I played Lucas in Alpha Strike as well in round 5. Lucas is a great guy. He was running Free Worlds League. He had an Anvil 3R, a Carronade 7M, which is something I hadn't encountered in Classic before, with a silver bullet Gauss rifle, which, fair play, is an interesting Gauss rifle to deal with. An Eris 2N, which is a pain in the butt, and a claw hammer. The Hammer 3C, which is a 5.8 30-tonner, which I really should have concentrated. I did not. Had I realized how easy this thing was to cripple, I would have gone after it in a heartbeat. I mean, it was a pain in my butt, and I was concentrating more on like the carronade and the anvil, um, which I did a lot to the anvil. But this hammer, I could have really taken this out pretty quick, actually. Um, anyway, beside that, um, it's more of a hey, you need to learn your lessons about your opponents and the technology out there and stuff. Which I haven't played Classic in a long time, so I really haven't looked at mechs in that way in a while. But anyway, getting to the game, we were doing hired escorts. Hired escorts is where you are escorting a technical across the battlefield. Each of us have a technical. It is what I refer to as the Jesus technical because it can drive over water. It has 100 health. It always has TMM2. It can choose to use terrain cover instead, but you never really wanted to. And has no arcs for receiving damage, so it has no rear, cannot be pushed, displaced, charged, death from above. It is essentially, it always goes first. So it is essentially like, you're trying to get this from one end of the table to the other. You're playing from short end to short end instead of long end to long end. So it made it a little bit more of a thing trying to get it across. Me and my opponent beat on each other's technicals like crazy. They didn't go down. Both of us made it off the table. Yeah. If anything, I would probably change this to be. Oh, and it moves 6. I would change this to be maybe 75 health or something. I don't know. But me and Lucas, we ended up playing a game where our two technicals, you cross paths. You will inevitably cross paths trying to get across the table or the board. The moment we crossed paths, our forces sort of collided. At that point, we were just kind of wailing on each other. The trucks were doing their own things, just getting out of the way. And my Blackhawk tried to chase down his truck. His Eris tried to chase down my truck. My Strider went and, because you could block for the truck, my Strider went and tried its best to block for the truck to make sure it didn't get shot up. Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. It was a fun game. Once again, I really enjoyed it, and I really liked playing against everybody that I played against. Lucas was an awesome opponent. Steven was cool. Steven was like me. He's been playing for a long time. I don't know about Lucas. Jesty, I have no clue how long he's been playing. I didn't think to ask. I do know he plays a pretty good amount though. So, it's something I didn't think about. It's like I didn't think to ask, hey, how long have you been playing BattleTech? It would be cool to talk to him about that one day. Maybe like next year we could get all the podcasters in a room. I think I mentioned this in the overview, and we could all talk about some of this stuff. Just kind of interesting. Like, hey, yeah, let's get to know each other and talk about everything. So, anyway, like overall, it was a fun tournament. I really like this rule set. Changes I would make, obviously, on mission two. So mission two, it explodes on an 8-drop. I think it should be probably changed a little bit to where if it's from being shot at, it should be like a 7-up because you're being shot at, and if you take 20 plus damage, yeah, it's gonna have an explosion. From the movement check, I could see a 9-up. Um, and I think part of the issue was also, does it say physical attacks? Do, 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 do. I would also make it any physical attacks that hit the torso or the arms, simply because at that point it's being jostled around and stuff. So basically, receive punches or any physical attack damage to the torso or arms or upper body, I guess. And also the getting shot and movement. Movement, I would have be a 9-up. Physical attacks, I'd have be an 8-up. Getting shot, I would have being a 7-up. I do know the reason they did this was to try to discourage dashers and stuff like that. To be fair, the fact that you brought along you get two was it two light strikes? Let me look. You get two light strikes and then a heavy strike. So you have essentially the ability to hit a dasher or something like that pretty well with like airstrikes and stuff like that. So I don't think it was really an issue. We did play on the Hex Tech mats, which I have one at this point. I want to go ahead and talk about them, simply because they are interesting and they are also like, okay, so they're the same size as the Alpha Strike, the not Alpha Strike, the classic BattleTech hex mats, the neoprene ones, but they don't have pre-put on terrain, which I think is really cool, because it allows, like at the tournament, we had the terrain for, I want to say, it was Hex Tech's terrain, maybe somebody else's. It was really nice to have, and the Catalyst ones, they have you're set in your terrain. It has the terrain marked out on the map, which I get. It's, they're trying to go for like a map sheet that's just really nice. But once you're doing a neoprene mat, you're starting to get invested into like 3D terrain and stuff. So, that's the thing. Also, the other thing I would change, like I said, I would make the truck a little less beefy. Allow it to cross water and stuff just like you did before. Maybe give it 75 health instead of 100, because it looks like me and my opponent both scored up in like the 75, 76 range for damage, I want to say. So yeah, that was sort of like, I think, where the sweet, maybe give it 80. Just, look what I would do actually, and I don't know if y'all kept this information. If you did, awesome. If you look at the scores, because the scores were based on how much damage you did to the truck, see how many points each player scored from that, and you can kind of figure out what the average damage to a truck was, um, and just make sure any that were destroyed, you take those out. So that way you can see how many were actually damaged to a certain point, and you can set it a little bit higher than that. Because the ones who destroyed it, obviously would have gotten whatever the threshold was anyway. You're looking for that mean average to figure out, hey, where is this? Anyway, I'm rambling. I do apologize. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, the video. It's sort of a podcasty type episode, and that's simply because I didn't get pictures of the games. I was really enthralled in what was going on. so I didn't think to get pictures. So instead, y'all have been watching after I talked about each army, y'all have been watching the stream of different armies. Or I've included the armies of each person in there. So I really hope you enjoyed it. If you, like I said, if you want to go ahead and support the channel, then you can support us on Patreon at Unicorn Company, patreon.com/Unicorn Company. You can become a channel member if you're watching this on YouTube. And also visit our sponsor, Fortress. Bobby's an awesome guy, great business, has everything you need for BattleTech. So that's it for today. Stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. It's a crazy ass world. This is Carrie signing off. I want to thank all of our patrons, channel members, and our sponsor for supporting the channel. Our patrons, first we have Captain Sarah, then our lieutenants, Boy in a Box and Nathan. We then have our sergeants, BZ Archer, Faz, and Steven. Then our cadets, Dominic, NB Kaiju, Housemaster Poding, Jamie, and Scott. Then we have our wonderful channel member, Miss J. And finally, our sponsor and Mercenary Review and Bonding Commission liaison, Fortress Miniatures and Games.